It's about to go up a tick too, because we have a friend of the show, someone who covers the University of Miami exceptionally well too for 247 Sports. I'm talking about, of course, David Lake. He's going to be joining us here momentarily.
He's ready.
Look at is he joining us with a groomed beard?
Here
you rate
he
the beard.
is.
Rate the beard, Peter Ruiz.
I mean, listen, I tried having it in the graphic. There were some other parts of the graphic that were maybe a little corny, so to say, but I think the beard looked darn good, man.
Pete, how's it going? AKA the Rev. What's up, boys?
The
Danny, D-Money, I was watching earlier. You are buzzing today, bro. You're ready for some football.
I'm getting texts from my wife left and right. I'm chilling. We're chilling right now.
And Coach Lucas is still backstage. Oh no, he just left. I was gonna say Coach Lucas is still backstage, so he's liking what we got going on.
Yeah, I'm chilling. I think it's the way I'm seated in this seat. You know, I'm trying to be respectful of answers and listen. I'm looking at a camera where I'm not actually looking at the person that's on the screen, because here now I'm looking at you, so I'm pretending to look at you when I look at this camera. So there's a lot going on, but I'm getting a lot of text. I am fine.
You're doing great.
I thought my questions, by the way, were quite good, I must say. All right.
Your responses maybe left something to be desired.
What responses?
I don't know. Well, we can watch the tape back. We can do some film study here a little bit, but I think David Lake's observation that you were indeed buzzing to start the show is an accurate one.
It's on brand.
Yeah, buzzing is a good thing, and you're not chilling. You're buzzing. Lean in. They're a proud sponsor.
I stay buzzing. All right. I feel what's this right here? Fresh as air.
There you go. David, I don't know how much of the show that you've watched, but I think we're going to rip Notre Dame's heads off on Saturday. And you and I have gone back and forth this offseason. I'm sure you vacillated on your predictions.
Definitely.
What do you expect now as we approach this game, as Miami's gotten their install in, as people's confidence in the quarterback has grown because he's looked great in fall camp? What are your expectations come Sunday night? Because I think that if I were a betting man, I might be looking at Miami by double digits here and get a nice little price on that.
So the thing that has my mind in a pretzel, it has nothing to do with like the Miami side of things. Like Miami's looked good. We kind of figured they would look good. They're an older veteran team. They look the part, needs to look a certain type of way. Miami checks all those boxes. The thing that has my mind in a pretzel at the moment is what Notre Dame did at quarterback during camp, where you hear, the entire Notre Dame beat, all the insiders say, hey, Kenny Minchie's kind of the guy right now. Like, it's close. And, there was a delay of naming who the starting quarterback's actually going to be. But up until they named CJ Carr the starting quarterback, everyone was saying it's probably going to be Kenny Minchie any day now. And so that kind of has me not as, confident that Notre Dame might be as good as maybe I thought they were going to be at the start of camp, because obviously it would have been more ideal from a Notre Dame perspective. They all assumed CJ Carr was going to be the man and run away with the job during camp, and that didn't happen. And now it kind of looks like they picked the guy that didn't perform the best. We don't, I kind of want to just straight up say, like, they picked the guy that didn't win the job, but technically he won the job, but he didn't perform the best in fall camp because they're projecting him to be better 12 games from now. Well, what does that mean for this game one right now against Miami? So that kind of has my mind in a pretzel. Now, I do have a lot of respect for everything else Notre Dame has on the field. Defensive tackle, of course, is a bit of a question mark for them as well. But I think every other position group, they're very strong. So I would be surprised if Miami wins by 10 plus. I think it'll be a close game. And, I don't know if I want to spoiler alert my own score that I have in my head right now, but let's just say where I stand right now, I think it's going to be looking like Shannon Dawson's going to have celebratory Champy Stone Crabs on Labor Day.
I'll tell you what, though, you've caused a stir the last 24 hours, David, because a lot of people are asking me about your Elijah Lofton comments.
Okay.
It seems
I get
like
it.
You were a little bit down on him, and we have here someone who is man.
Okay,
careful.
I don't know.
Careful at the start of the show.
Might have to take the headphones off for a second here, D, because
he gave Miami the tight end advantage, and he said that 6'6" guy that catches the footballs. Why is he valued over?
He's unproven. To D Money's point, like Raridan hasn't done anything yet.
Entering his 5th year.
Correct.
Just checking.
That's fine.
Lofton hasn't done anything yet either. To
He
be
had
fair,
more yards in his entire career in
All right.
one season.
Defend your
Sorry.
take, and for the uninitiated, please explain.
Let's
what Peter
provide
was alluding to.
context, right? Let's provide context. So I did my season preview yesterday, and I just went position by position, and I gave a starter grade and I gave a depth grade, right? And I forget it, Pete. I don't know if you know, but for my starter grade for tight end, which is Lofton, like he's the starter, I think I gave a B. I think I gave a B grade for Elijah Lofton as the tight end. And this is within the context of like a college football playoff championship level team, right? So I gave Elijah Lofton a B. Is that like, I don't know. Is that me?
I think that's
down?
fair. But our friend over there, I think is going to.
No, but it's not only D Money. Like I got a lot of blowback in general on grading him a B. To me, look, D Money. This is where maybe the harshest thing I'm going to say about this is, and where it lays. I think tight end for me is the most significant downgrade year over year for this offense. Would you push back on that?
In terms of, I mean, in ways, yes, I would. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I'll say this. In terms of speed downfield, in terms of the ability to go down the seam with 4.5 speed, looking like Elijah Arroyo looks, that does not exist on this roster. In terms of like total amount of catches, I would push back only because talent-wise, maybe you're right, but like it's not like Arroyo was catching a ton of footballs in this offense last year. We had a lot of weapons, so his talent was at an All-America level, but his production, not because of him, just because there were other options there, was not.
He was explosive in a smaller, he didn't get many targets like you're saying, but he was 17 yards per catch. My only point with Lofton, like, believe me, I think he's a good player. I just kind of view him as more like, I don't know if this makes sense, but like an elite role player where it's like, okay, for me, I think Lofton's best if the receivers are so good that a defense forgets about Elijah Lofton and boom, you hit him in the flat. Boom, you hit him on a short crosser and he can create yak. But like if you need your tight end to go get 15 yards downfield, I just don't know if he has that skill set. That's where I'm at.
That's super fair. I think he's a different player than Arroyo. I do think that Lofton is going to make a few plays this season that'll leave people's mouth agape and wonder, who is this player? This is such a strange player to kind of put in a box. We're attempting to. I think that his camp has also been a little uneven as he's about to fill some pretty big shoes.
But he is
I think we're approaching this with the right amount of skepticism. Not everything has to be all puppy dogs and ice cream.
We're also I think some people forget D was right to talk about him how he was talking about him last spring because he was the starting running back too. Like he was like, Fletcher was hurt. You didn't have Damian Martinez. He was the running back, and he was having practices where he was like absolutely tearing it up. Now we know what that defense was, but I think that's why when you hear the buzz stuff, Malachi, as we know, has been that guy, the buzz guy at this camp. It's because it's a consistent thing throughout, and Lofton was getting the ball more than anyone, you could say, at that point.
I am a Elijah Lofton believer. Where I'm coming from is I don't know what his production looks like. Like, can he be a 500-yard tight end at Miami? That's where I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure.
No, it's fair. And packages that Miami is going to use revolving around the tight end, it's hard, and it's been hard to figure out exactly what the rotation might look like. I think Shannon Dawson will be smart in using these tight ends at what they're good at. I think there's going to be several packages in which Elijah Lofton isn't necessarily lining up as your tight end. There may be multiple tight ends on the field, and Elijah Lofton may not be a part of that package. I think that Shannon Dawson is going to be creative, and he's going to have to be because Elijah Lofton is that unique of a talent. David, do you agree?
He's a unique player, He's an outlier. He's 6'1", 235, 240. When you watch him, it makes no sense what he does, but he is a freak athlete at his size. But still, there is limitations that come with 6'1", 235, 240. again, now I sound like an Elijah Lofton hater. I'm really
That's the
not.
story. They're going to label that with the clickbait.
I mean,
Pete's already working on the headline.
He's going to do some amazing things that boggle the mind. But also, you have a 6'7" freshman at the position too, and that looks a certain way, and that is capable of doing certain things that Elijah Lofton isn't. That's not to say that he's better. And I hope is 15 minutes on Elijah Lofton enough, or do we need to go?
No, I got a little more. I got about 20.
Yeah, let's go.
You know,
I mean, I could talk all day on this.
I know you're from a very posh environment there in the west coast of Florida, surrounded by, the finest things. But in your heart, I know you're a dog. I know this. And I know how you like your football players. I've seen you talk. You've been around so many high school fields, so many combines. You've seen guys run fast. Then you're like quietly, very classy, but very quietly saying, this guy, I'm not sure of. I don't know if he has the edge. Am I wrong or right when I say when it's time to go to war, put the women and children to bed offensively, Elijah Lofton is in that car, whether Mark Fletcher's in the 100%. Car, Malachi Tony, Lots is in the car. That's what I'm saying.
He is
That's
a dog.
what I'm saying. We're going to war with Elijah Lofton on Sunday, and I feel pretty good.
Zero pushback on that from me.
Yeah.
It's just, and look, part of this too, it's an unfair conversation to him because Miami is tight end you. And like D-Money, you and I and Pete, and Mike, we've covered elite tight ends that don't look like Elijah Lofton. So I am unfairly comparing him to those guys. I'll admit that. He is a good player though.
We can't think of him as a tight end then, if that's what
weapon.
What it is. Yeah.
Just put him on the depth chart as weapon. I think that's fair. I don't want to limit him as tight end. That may be where he lines up on the ESPN depth chart, but I think that that would be selling him short. And I also think it sells Shannon Dawson short too, because I think he used him in creative ways last year. He'll continue to do so. And it might be because of some of the bodies that they brought in at that position too, that we may be undervaluing because they were maybe perceived as blocking tight ends at universities in their previous stops in their career where they needed them to play a little bit differently. Let's switch gears. Maybe we can circle back to the Lofton discourse, but this season's all about getting to Charlotte. Now, we said that last year, and it's kind of embarrassing, but also impressive. Rhett Lashley takes a bunch of former Miami Hurricanes to Charlotte. Now, Miami didn't have the opportunity that it has this year in playing SMU head-to-head to see if truly SMU was deserving of that Charlotte appearance. However, they made it in their first year. Miami has flatly made it to Charlotte one time since joining this conference. That was not the plan. Is it Charlotte or bust in your mind?
100%. Yeah. To me, yeah. Look, this is not, especially on the eve of Notre Dame week, and this is not a fun thing to say. I'll admit that. But I am much more interested in how Miami handles the ACC schedule compared to this first month. Now, this first month, Notre Dame, Florida, massive games, they matter. The fan base is definitely going to be all in on winning those games, as they should be. But the thing that Miami has lacked since joining the conference, so 20 years now, is handling business in this conference. And that's the embarrassing thing about they've gotten to Charlotte once, but not winning the ACC. So this team, especially D-Money, this, relative to the rest of the conference, this team is built to handle an ACC slate that's 7 straight weeks of games, right? They should be able to win at the line of scrimmage. Right.
7 straight games of war.
Right. So it needs to be Charlotte or bust. Last year at this time, I think all of us would have taken 10-2, right? Just in a vacuum, 10-2. As that season progressed and Miami, squeaked out some games that were 50-50, it then turned into, okay, this team should go 11. As we turned the page to November, I think all of us would have said, why can't this team go undefeated? They couldn't get it done. But absolutely, they need to be in Charlotte this year.
This is something we talked about offline, but you have a very good grasp on this, and you alluded to it in your comments. The ACC, let's call it exodus of talented players leaving and not being replaced in the portal.
Yeah.
Aside from Miami and Clemson, although even Clemson lost someone in Michigan. For those who haven't read your articles on the subject, heard your podcasts on the subject, let people know just what we're talking about when we say these ACC teams are not just kind of staying ACC-ish, they're actually getting worse.
You're seeing a disturbing trend for the ACC of, okay, when the best players in the ACC enter the portal, they're going Big Ten, they're going SEC, right? And it's more and more becoming a Power 2 conference every year from a talent acquisition standpoint. And I think you're going to see that more and more on the field this year. But okay, so transfer portal exits and incoming transfer portal additions, that's part of the game. But there is, one thing that doesn't really get looked at is, whether it's a net positive or a net negative for a program. And to your point, like Miami in the ACC, just like they are at the high school level, they are by far the best transfer portal net positive team in the ACC right now. Clemson, it's a smaller sample size. They don't really lose that many, and they did add some guys this year, that are good, and so they are a net positive. Florida State, we'll see. We'll see that they would.
What do you really think? What do you really think? Don't give us that.
Look, I think Florida State will have more of an identity this year. They will, scramble ball from Thomas Castellanos and Gus Malzahn. And then their defense, I think their defense is going to take a significant step back year over year from a talent standpoint and from, running a Mickey Mouse scheme standpoint. But they will have an identity, which they did not have last year. I kind of view them as like a 6-6 team this year. But we'll see if their portal haul is a net positive, and then everyone else is just like kind of a straight up net negative. And quite frankly, especially so on the offensive and defensive lines. That's where these ACC programs get picked apart. Like Virginia Tech had a guy taken off their offensive line, and he's going to now go start for LSU. And that's just a trend for a lot of the ACC right now. And that stuff adds up. And to your point with getting to Charlotte, there's two rosters in the ACC that can legitimately hang with SEC and Big Ten type of talent. It's Miami and Clemson. Now they have to go handle business, navigate a season. That's a whole different conversation rather than a one-game vacuum. What does Miami look like? But they're built to do it this year, I think, more than they have in 20 years.
Two quick questions for you here, David, before I share the rock. Miami plays Sunday night. There will be a well-established ACC narrative entering that game because there's some high-profile interconference games. I'm curious what you think that narrative will be entering Sunday night, a.k.a. how will the ACC fare in some of these games, and also which opponent on this ACC schedule has you most worried?
So I think the one game that really will matter most from an ACC narrative standpoint, other than Miami Notre Dame, is, of course, Clemson LSU, right? And I'll admit, I'm even skeptical of how Clemson's going to perform in that game, even though Clemson has the hype and Clemson's the favorite. You look at how Clemson performed against those SEC teams last year, though, it didn't go well for them. I think they were 0-3 if you include the Texas loss in the playoffs. So we'll see, right? They're the home team. They are the favorite. LSU struggles in season openers. We'll see how that goes. In terms of the ACC team that I'm most worried about, it is Louisville. I think, to me, that's the most important game for Miami to win in so many regards on their ACC schedule. Because, number one, I think you need that for a tiebreaker standpoint. Louisville's going to be in the hunt there, too. You need that for a tiebreaker. Number two, you're coming off a bye. So you should be prepared and ready to go for that. Now, Louisville is too, unfortunately. They have a bye going into that game as well. But to me, I think you have to go 7-1 in ACC play in order to get to Charlotte in a 17-team ACC league, right? And so if you lose that Louisville game, which is game 6, it's right in the middle of the season, that leaves you very little margin for error the rest of the way if you have a hiccup again in ACC play. So Louisville, and also just they're going to be good. We'll see what Miller Moss is, but I think he's surrounded by probably the best skill talent in the league. Their line of scrimmage play, we'll see how it looks when they actually start playing games. That could be a little dicey for them, but I think bottom line, they're going to turn this Miami game into a shootout, and I think it's going to be a tough game to go win.
D, we already established that you're the anti-Lofton guy in the Canes world, but who's your guy? We're gonna keep it positive. By the way, I'm just kidding. As you said it, right? He is a weapon. But who is your guy? Who's David's guy that you're gonna say, I'm stamping this guy? You haven't seen him yet. People haven't maybe given this guy the attention, but I believe in this player. I think he's gonna have a great year.
Can I say Xavier Lucas?
Let's go.
I'll say Xavier Lucas. I think he's going to really solidify the secondary. I think we know, OJ Frederic, after what he did last year, dependable guy. If he takes the next step in games, he could be one of the best corners in the ACC, if not the country, right? I think Xavier Lucas is also a top talent. And when you have two corners that you can leave in man coverage, that changes your entire defense. So some of this is probably wishful thinking as well, but I do legitimately think Xavier Lucas is going to be the real deal this year. Also, I do think Carson Beck's going to be good. I think people are overthinking it when they're doubting Carson Beck, though that doubt has kind of waned a little bit, D, I think, since now that all the camp reports have circulated about how well he did. I think coming into camp, everyone forgot about Carson Beck. He wasn't on a bunch of top 10 quarterback lists, which is crazy to me. But I think people forgetting about how good Carson Beck is. I'm working on an article now where I looked at he's played against 6 top 10 teams in his Georgia career. He went 4-2 in those games. His 2 losses were to Alabama by a combined 10 points. So he has led his team to wins in these type of games. He's 2-0 at home against top 10 opponents. So he's no stranger to these type of games. And to me, again, CJ Carr could end up being a big time player because we just don't know, I guess. But to me, I enter this game thinking Miami has a big advantage there.
David, I had one last question for you. How does it sound that the pigskin coming off Carter Davis's boot?
Sounds a little bit different, Coach.
I'm telling you, Coach. Sounds a little different. We'll see who wins that job officially. But Coach, you and I were at that spring game, Coach. Golly.
David, I'm going to rehash a topic that we talked about earlier in terms of people that can really establish themselves on Sunday night. Spotlight game. We know that plenty of people are going to be talking about Carson Beck. Ruben Bain has got plenty of attention. You got stars on the other side of the ball for Notre Dame too, Jeremiah Love. Who do you think takes the spotlight for themselves that people are underestimating? Because we had consensus up here on this desk that Sunday night may very well belong to Jordan Lyle at times.
I'm a Jordan Lyle believer as well. I'm also a pretty big Mark Fletcher guy, to be honest. Now, I'm not pushing back on the Jordan Lyle love at all. But I think Mark Fletcher is good in his own right, and he's going to play an important role in this game in terms of efficiently getting hopefully 4 or 5 yards a pop against this talented Notre Dame defense. I think those are 2 guys to watch. From a receiver standpoint, I think, again, Carson Beck, I think is going to be good. Someone's going to have to be catching balls from him and getting those yards, receiving yard wise. Why not Malachi Toney? I mean, if he hits, in some sort of way where he gets 70 yards as a reclassified true freshman slot wide receiver, that's going to create a lot of buzz, I think, nationally during the game and after the game. Mo Torre, I think, is a tremendous story if he's out there to go out and he can produce and look good and contain Jeremiah Love somewhat. So I think there's a lot of good stories in this going into this week from a Miami standpoint. D tackle, Miami needs one of those guys to step up, and Notre Dame's going to test those guys. So those would kind of be the names that I'm keeping an eye on outside of the ones you named.
When did you start going to practices as a reporter, intern? When was your first? How long has it been?
Student? Does my time as a student count?
Yeah, student counts.
So that would be 2004 when I was a sophomore in college.
So we're talking 21 years basically uninterrupted, right?
Yes.
So you know what it looks like. You know what it definitely does not look like, right? You've seen what it, you see what it shouldn't look like. But being around now, and you're in. Obviously, you play the role as far as forward facing, but we know what's going on. What looks different besides just the players? Like, well, just in general, like what is the biggest, maybe it is just the player size, but what is the biggest difference being around this operation compared to what you've seen in the prior, let's say 17 years before Mario?
Like this is like a simple, obvious, it sounds like a no-brainer type of thing to say, but like they're just serious about football now. And honestly, it goes like, yes, Mario Cristobal definitely sets that tone. But to me, like maybe the biggest change, and Mario is absolutely like intense, all about football. Like from a like care factor standpoint, like this guy cares, 19 hours a day. He only cares about Miami Hurricanes football, right? Like he is the guy from an effort standpoint. Every fan would want to lead their program, right? But D-Money, like to me, the biggest change is the administration, just how they are now all in on football. Like Joe E loves this stuff. And it seems like it seems like he will do whatever it takes. Sorry, Gary Furman's distracting me a little bit. It seems like he will do whatever it takes. He will give this football program whatever they need to go be successful. And I think we're seeing now, D-Money, that when Miami has resources, they can be a top 10 program. Miami's in the top 10 right now going into this season. They look the part at most position groups. And so to me, like there has to be that alignment. It's such a cliche thing that administrators say when they first hire a coach, but it's absolutely true. And Miami right now is putting its money where its mouth is, from admin to the collective side of things. And, football, you have to be all in on doing it as a university because it's not cheap. And Miami is finally investing in it. And that's where I'm just kind of like, I'm just like, wow, Miami is a real football school finally again, because nowadays you have to spend money to be good in this sport. That wasn't necessarily the case when Miami was dominating the sport in the early 2000s, early 90s and 80s. But now you have to spend big, and Miami's finally kind of, I don't know if it's a blank check, but they're in the game.
The Miami Hurricanes content creation space is highly competitive. There's a lot of great content being made. I think many people watching this HURRICADE 2025 right now also sample through the Smoke podcast, really get all the Hurricanes information that they can get at. So with that as the setup, do we want to have a powwow here and talk about Jabari Antoine and how we think that he might be the real deal? Because this guy's really turned it on as of late in camp, and I've become a big time fan. If I have a guy on this team on that side of the ball, that guy's becoming my next guy.
Jabari. I was corrected. It's Jabari Antoine. Spell Jabari.
Okay. I also want to correct David Lake, who called him Motore. It's Motore.
Luckily, I have Pete, who's a connoisseur of African football. And
Lake, are you in that chat?
We'll add you to AFCONs.
No? I am aware. Yeah. Motore is how it's supposed to say. Torre. Yeah. I mean, Jabari Antoine. What was it? The Golden Canes practice, right? That we were all out at. He was getting some.
Wait, we were?
He was getting some solid reps.
I didn't know we were out there. We were out.
I know one of us was supposed to be out there. I would like to see your guys' donations to the Miami Hurricane Fund. I tell you right now.
Anyway, so we were like, he was getting some significant reps, right? So that's where I was just like, man, he's they're throwing him into the deep end of the pool, and he was holding his own. So I'm with you, Mike, on that one. I think another young guy, like just from a body type perspective, like for the future, I'm not saying this year, but Kellen Wiley, the linebacker, like he looks a certain type of way.
Yeah, he does.
Bryce Fitzgerald, like D-Money, you've been on this one. He is fast. He really is like, the ball hawk cliche gets thrown out there, but he is legitimately a ball hawk. Like when he sees the ball get loaded by the quarterback, he's on it and he makes a play on the ball. He's different in that way. And then Hayden Lowe, like, I know on my website, I'm sure you guys get it too. Like we get a lot of like, what about Hayden Lowe? What about Hayden Lowe? and he's not doing poorly. I just think the roster's at the point where it's like, you know, Hayden Lowe can kind of slowly work his way into the season. I'm excited about him as well. So, look, the talent is being stacked. Now you got to retain it and develop it. I think they've been doing that. That's why it looks a little different going into this season compared to even last year. And but I'm with you, Jabari Antoine. He looks the part. Well, who else you want to get in the weeds on? I love getting in the weeds on these random guys. Who would Kevin Clark want to know about?
Luka Gilbert. I saw him make a pretty impressive play.
You saw it?
And I know we talked about body types and more Elijah Lofton. I told you we were going to circle back on Elijah Lofton, but I think both Gilbert and Bauman are guys that are probably being overlooked. One, because of them being a freshman, even though the body type would suggest he's ready to go, and the other guy because he's thought of as a blocker. But as fall camp progressed, those guys started asserting themselves, and it made me realize that there might be a place in this offense. So we established your thoughts on TE1. I ventured to say that a lot of the tight ends are going to play, and Shannon Dawson's offense last year played a lot of the tight ends too. So how do you think we're going to use all these guys? Do you think they all see the field?
Luka Gilbert's an interesting one because, you know, I don't know about like Notre Dame. I mean, the body type looks mature enough to go out and do it. Can you trust him? I mean, that's up to the coaches to figure out. Long term, Luka's going to be like, he's going to be an NFL tight end. He's different. He's one of the bigger tight ends I've ever seen at Miami. Bauman, to me, again, like I'm going to sound like a Bauman hater now. I think he's a solid role player. Like I think he is a red zone type of tight end, kind of, you know, like a plus in terms of receiving ability, a plus Cam McCormick. And
that's not bad. I don't understand how anyone could take offense to that. Cam McCormick carved out a nice role on this team.
How many touchdowns did he have? Like 3 or 4? I don't remember the number, but
I think that if you said the expectations are for Bauman entering this team, replicate the McCormick formula, every Miami fan would take that, and that would be him delivering.
I would take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's unfair, D-Money?
Let's cut to the chase. Who has the tight end advantage on Sunday? Is it Notre Dame with Eli? We had to Google his name because we did not recognize any plays he made on the football field, or the Miami Hurricanes with multi-purpose weapon Elijah Lofton and Alex Bauman, who caught the winning touchdown as a true freshman in the Cotton Bowl. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Miami simply because I believe in Carson Beck and the passing operation way more than I do Notre Dame. So I'll take Miami's.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
That wasn't the debate. I was talking about perception before I got to the reality. D-Money.
You're setting the table. I understand.
I will.
Setting the table.
Well, there's another thing that, because David's super plugged in, another person that was part of a discourse that landed differently with our fan base. Anytime you say anything that isn't glowing in praise, people are going to think you're either taking a shot or not.
I am pretty glass half full, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
I think you are too.
I
think you are too. So let's talk about a player that is a bit polarizing on the message boards and so far in this chat. In this chat, I've already seen like Mike Ryan hates JoJo Trader. No, I don't. I just think that JoJo Trader needs to set himself apart, and he's getting more competition than maybe most people anticipated. What are you expecting from JoJo Trader, and are you a hater?
I'm not a hater of JoJo. I am a full believer. Now, look, it's kind of leaked out already. Like when you're a skill guy and you're dealing with an ankle sprain, that's a tough deal.
Whoa. What?
It's leaked out. Just like the Golden Canes practice that David Lake was at.
You know, this is live. We got about 5,000 on, D. This is not just a group chat call here.
Look, that's how good David Lake is. He finds his way in practices that he's not supposed to be in.
I didn't say it. I saw someone else say it. But if that's true, it's hard as a skill player to deal with that, right? I think you would admit that, right, Mike? But
yeah,
you know, look, I
think that's part of my concern. My concern is, you know, is his body going to hold up? And this was a big fall camp for JoJo, and I don't think he necessarily anticipated the type of competition he'd be getting from that room. But you know, I was hoping for more, especially after that Pop-Tart Bowl performance in which he kind of gave credence to a lot of the hype.
I'm just laughing, Dave. Do not go in the group chat. Stay away from the group chat, Dave. Stay away from the group chat.
I'm already getting texts as well.
Okay, so look, if Jojo Trader at his best, I think honestly, and look, talent doesn't always equal production. Jojo Trader, I think at his best, is the most talented receiver Miami has on the roster. I will stand by that. Even with Malachi Toney looking like a total freak as a true freshman slot, I think Jojo Trader has more talent. Will that talent equal production? We'll find out. But I am a Jojo Trader believer. And frankly, like, I think for this team to like kind of hit its ceiling, I think they need Jojo Trader to produce. So, you know, again, maybe this is me being hopeful and wishful, but I think
this is the end. This is the last we're gonna hear from you, my friend.
Yeah. Vanish back to the West Coast.
You're going off Filet this podcast next.
Presented by Champion Seafood. Get ready to learn Sean John Discount Outlet.
If you need an extra credential this weekend, I can slip you mine.
Or you can be an invited guest of a Golden Cane. You know a couple people. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Damage control.
Coach Dave Lake, man.
David,
look at that pillow in the background. That Naples pillow. That is unbelievable.
Naples High.
You see that?
Yeah,
it's
Naples High.
Well, it's Naples High. Is it the Golden Eagles? What's your mascot? What a majestic bird that is. Explain to me the logo here.
There's two types of people in the world: Golden Eagles and those who want to be Golden Eagles.
There you go.
I thought you were going to say Golden Eagle, Golden Canes. Could have gone a different way with that one.
Those who have access and those who pay. All right. David Lake, thank you so much. Make sure to check out everything that David does. You co-host that. Can I hear you say Gabby's name just because I love how you intro it on the podcast?
Gabby Urrutia.
Man, he can roll his R's. I can't do that.
Me neither.
Well, Puerto Ricans also can't. I learned that.
Really?
Pete can hit it. Pete, let's go.
Urrutia.
Oh, love it.
That's
thanks, guys.
All right, God bless you, David, and your phone in the coming hours. We appreciate it,
Coach.
Great to have you, David Lake. Really good information guy. Loves his program. Went to the school, and a really fair reporter. I think that there's a lot said about people that are in the Miami information game, and there's